Welcome and welcome back to Really Legal. I'm attorney Ethan Bearman. There was a bombshell that came out of Trump's New York legal cases yesterday that you likely have not heard about. I'll give you the good, the bad, and what's next. But before I get to the bombshell, yesterday was day 2 of the criminal trial in the hush money election interference case regarding to the payoff and the falsification, allegedly, of the business records related to the payoff of Stormy Daniels to keep her quiet 12 days before the 2016 election. As we've talked about in previous videos, yesterday went very much as I explained previously, where Judge Merchan and the attorneys for both sides continued with voir dire, interviewing the potential jurors. Remember, there was an initial pool of 96 potential jurors. They've gone through most of them now, or greater than half, I should say. And the good news, this is really good news to me, and should be for you as well. They've picked 7 jurors now for the jury. That's a great number because remember, in Manhattan and dealing with a former president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, people are going to know a lot. And most of the jurors who were potential jurors, who were dismissed, said they couldn't be impartial, they couldn't be fair, or they had other commitments. Yeah, I believe one was a doctor who said, look, I can't take 6 weeks off, my patients need me. That's a very reasonable, I don't want to say excuse, but that's a reason for Judge Merchan to say, look, go ahead, go home, you're not going to serve on this trial. What's interesting is the prosecution, as I understand it, based on the reports, because there are no cameras in this courtroom, the prosecutors used 3 of their 10 peremptory challenges, as we've discussed. Defense used 4 of their peremptory challenges. And what's really interesting to note is the defense focused on social media posts to determine, hey, you're biased, so you're not telling us the truth. Get out of here. I'm going to use a no cause needed peremptory challenge or strike to get rid of that juror. Also of note that happened yesterday in the courtroom was Judge Merchan admonished Donald Trump, who muttered at one point, apparently, when a juror said something negative about him, and the judge, and I want to read the exact quote, so I don't want to get it wrong, but the judge very specifically said that Trump needed to be quiet and, quote, I will not have any jurors intimidated in this courtroom. He can get tossed in jail for that if he's going to cause issues in the courtroom, during trial, during the jury selection process, any of that. And the judge can say, no, you're going to have to sit, you're interfering with the process, you're going to sit in jail while we do this. Also of note that happened yesterday, as I understand from the reports again, yesterday morning, it appears that Donald J. Trump, who always talks about all of his great energy and they talk about Sleepy Joe as an attack on our president, Joe Biden, he apparently fell asleep again in court. This is unreal. I've never fallen asleep in court before. I've never had a client fall asleep in court before. This is really strange. I don't want to speculate too much on this, but are they giving him something to try and keep him calm in the courtroom? Or does he normally take a stimulant and he's not taking it currently? I don't know the answer to that question. But give me your comments below. Tell me, what is it that you think is why he's falling asleep in court? I'd love to read your comments, by the way. So, all right, so here's the bombshell. I think, in my mind, this is a bombshell that happened yesterday. So, in the Letitia James, the civil fraud case against the Trump organization, Donald Trump kids, Weisselberg, etc., the one that has the $350 million judgment plus interest, $464 million plus, where the bond requirement for the undertaking, again, we've talked about this in a previous video, was dropped to $175 million. And this interesting company led by Don Hankey, who I can't stop thinking about South Park every time I say his name, so apologies to Mr. Hankey on this one, but whew, the Christmas poo. Anyway, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, and if you follow me on Threads or Twitter, I will post a free gifted link to the article, so give me a follow there and go find the free article link there. They talked about Hankey's background in real estate, giving loans to very wealthy people at higher than average interest rates. And he's a big kind of gambler that apparently has worked out well for him. The important part of this that I consider the bombshell. So remember, it's his company, Knight Specialty Insurance, that has underwritten the bond for Donald Trump, the $175 million. In this article in the Wall Street Journal, they talk about, hey, it's money in an account that's earning 5% interest. I charge them 1%. That's why you'd pay for a bond in this case. And if that is all true, then they're right. Then that's the reason for Trump not to put up cash, but instead to get a bond, because he can still make money on the money while this is being litigated. Here's the bombshell. Remember that the core of Letitia James' case is about false business records, fraud regarding valuation of his properties. One in particular was Mar-a-Lago. Is it worth $600 million? Is it worth $300 million? Is it worth... Different values were given to obtain better rates as collateral for loans and insurance. So the president of Hankey's company yesterday, Mr. Bakhta, considered, I'm quoting this now from the Wall Street Journal, considered providing Trump's bond financing even at the higher amount, though he said the former president didn't have the cash on hand. As a result, Hankey's team began evaluating Trump's real estate, including Mar-a-Lago, his private club in Palm Beach. One red flag, he said, was that the property is zoned exclusively for use as a private club and couldn't automatically be turned into single-family compound. That significantly impacts its value, he said. If that zoning restriction remains, quote, it wouldn't have the same value that Trump thinks it has, Bakhta said. Thankfully, we didn't go down that road. That is a bombshell. Here's why that's a bombshell to me. This case is being appealed. New evidence doesn't get introduced into the record. However, if I'm A.G. James and her team, in my fight over this bond, I would introduce this language from the I would try to introduce this comment from the Wall Street Journal as I'm arguing about the bond. Because in an appeals court, I don't get to introduce new evidence, with exceedingly rare exception. But no new evidence. However, this becomes huge because this actually supports A.G. James' contention that Trump's lying actually cost the people tax money, cost them, Trump fraudulently got lower interest rates because that zoning restriction has been in place since Trump. This is since the 1990s. That property was never worth, according to Bakhta, what Trump claimed, because he couldn't be turned into a single-family compound. It didn't have the value. One red flag, he said, was that the property is zoned exclusively for use as a private club. And then if the appeals court, which does happen, sends the case back to the lower court, in New York it's called the Supreme Court, which in most other jurisdictions it's the Superior Court. If the appeals court sends it back to the trial court, and let's say that they call for a new trial, I now have this new evidence to further support my case. So even Trump's bond company is saying Mar-a-Lago isn't worth what Trump thinks it's worth. That's unbelievable to me. That is actually a bombshell, that your own bond company, in your own appeal, in your own case, is saying it's not what you think it is worth. So the good here is the criminal trial is moving fairly quickly. They have 7 jurors picked. They need to get at least 5 more for the 12. And then, as I have read, the judge wants 6 alternates. That's a large number of alternates, but probably because of the length of the trial, the complexity of the trial, and possibly people's fears. The other good is this mind-boggling article in the Wall Street Journal. Like I said, I'll share that link on my Twitter and my threads if you give me a follow there, so you can read the article for free. The bad here is they can't use this new evidence necessarily. They can't necessarily use this new evidence. The other bad in the New York I don't really see anything bad in the New York trial. So what's next? Court is not in today, Wednesday, April 17th, 2024. So we'll pick it back up in the criminal trial tomorrow on Thursday the 18th, continuing the voir dire. It seems quite likely, or possible at least, that Monday opening arguments will happen in New York. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sharing the video with your friends, your family, your frenemies, reposting it, sharing it on your other social media platforms. I love that. I really appreciate it. Click that like button too. Smash the subscribe button. Give me your comments. You see me responding on pretty much every video to people. So I love to see your comments. And thank you so much for watching Really Legal on the Really American Network. I'm attorney Ethan Bearman. I'll talk to you next time.